Hello, it's time for another episode of Discipleship Today. We're joining midstream. My name's Pastor Bob Benson. We're joining midstream into the story of the raising of Lazarus in John 11. I'm going to read the next section of Scripture, and I alluded to it last week a little bit. This is the result of Lazarus being raised from the dead. I'm going to start in verse 45. Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what he did, believed in him. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. So the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered the council and said, "What are we to do? For this man performs many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation." But one of them, Caiaphas, who was a high priest that year, said to them, "You know nothing at all, nor do you understand. It is better that for you that one man should die for the people, not that a whole nation should perish." He did not say this of his own accord, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation, and not for the nation only, but also to gather into one the children of God who are scattered abroad. So, from that day on, they made plans to put him to death. Jesus, therefore, no longer walked openly among the Jews, but went from there to a region near the wilderness, a town called Ephraim. And there he stayed with the disciples. Now the Passover of the Jews was at hand, and many went up from the country to Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. They were looking for Jesus and saying one to another, as they stood in the temple, "What do you think? That he will not come to the feast at all." Now the chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that if anyone knew where he was, he should let them know, that they might arrest him. Here is the result of Jesus' miraculous rising of Lazarus from the dead. They didn't deny the miracle. The miracle was well known to all of the people. But they really were afraid of the power that he was gaining in the sight of all the people. He performs many signs, and if he continues this way, everyone will believe in him. Well, if he was the Messiah, if he was the Son of the living God, don't you think the religious leaders would want everybody to believe in him? I think their whole motivation is contained in that whole statement that if we let it go on like this, the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation. They were afraid of their positions and their country, the Jewish land of Israel, more than they were about serving God. And it's a reminder to us not to lose our focus on the important things. Don't lose focus on following Jesus. And that's my encouragement for you today. We are supposed to be, as Christians, we call ourselves little Christ, or followers of Jesus Christ. We're trying to emulate his characteristics. We're trying to be more like him every day. And I know some days that's more of a struggle than others. And it's a struggle for me too, as a pastor, to be more like Jesus. Every year, my wife and I pick a characteristic that we want, that Jesus has, that we want to emulate more and more. My characteristic for this year is intentional selflessness and trying to be more like Jesus in that it's not about me. Jesus never used any of the power that he had to benefit himself, but he always used the power that he had to benefit others, even in the temptations. When Jesus is hungry and thirsty, and Satan says to him, "You could turn these stones into bread." Jesus could have, but that would have been using his power to benefit himself. He never did that. He didn't have a place to lay. He didn't have a house to live in. Are we intentionally selfless? And I tell you that as a society, we are not intentionally selfless, but that's a characteristic of Christ. My encouragement for you today is let's try and be intentionally selfless as we serve others, as we disciple others, and as we are discipled. For Discipleship Today, my name is Pastor Bob Benson. Thank you for taking your time and listening to me today.